Hey, what's going on? I am Matt O'Leary, joined by the great Jake Asman. Jake, how you doing today, sir?
What's going on, Matt? It's a great time to be a Jet fan. I see you're decked out of the Mets gear. Playoff baseball in New York. Mets tonight. Yankees start Tuesday. It's a great time right now. New York football has a combined winning record of 5-3. I mean, who's got it better than the New York sports fan right now?
We are living our best life right now. I was telling you before we got started, going to the Met game tonight, absolutely amped up. And I'm going to have to get some action in on this game. So let's segue into the sponsor here, BUSR. They are giving you a 100% match deposit bonus and 25 casino chips. You could use my code busr.com/Matt. They are sponsoring this segment. Ginger's on the Jets. We did the first episode over on Jake's channel. Now we're back over here. Jake, I know you have a link too. Why don't you put that out there as well?
Yeah, it's just busr.com/Asman. Just my last name, ASMAN.
There we go. Perfect. We're going to get into some the spread and some props in a little bit, but just kind of want to preview this game first. Big question off the top, but what do the Jets have to do to win this game against Miami?
You know, I could sit here and tell you, Matt, they got to do a lot of things, but the biggest thing I believe they have to do is score more points than the other team. And if they do that, I feel like they got a great chance to win on Sunday. No, I mean, look, the Jets have to build on what they did in the fourth quarter of last week. I think it starts with Zach Wilson. I think the biggest matchup to watch is Zach Wilson against cover 1 or cover 0, because Connor Rogers pointed this out earlier this week. The Dolphins defense, they run a lot of cover 1 or cover 0. And for those who want to know simply what that means, it means they blitz a lot. It means that the Dolphins are going to put guys in man coverage, and it's going to be on the Jets receivers to beat man coverage and get open. It's going to be on Zach Wilson to process really quickly where the rush is coming from and get the ball out quickly to his receivers. So Zach getting the ball out fast, on time, and the receivers winning one-on-ones, I think, is the biggest X factor for the Jets in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that pass rush, which is something that I wanted to get into because the Jets offensive line is a little bit of a question mark right now. I don't know if we know for sure who's going to play left tackle in this game. Connor McDermott, who I find it so funny. The Jets did everything in their power not to have this guy on the field. And then due to an injury to Max Mitchell, he ends up coming in and having to play anyway. Just overall thoughts on one, what the line's going to look like this week, and then number 2, how do they hold up against a team that's going to get after the quarterback?
Yeah, no doubt. I think there's 2 versions of this offensive line, right? There's the version where Dwayne Brown plays left tackle, and then you slot the rest out from there. And there's the version he doesn't. If he does play left tackle, well, he's obviously your left tackle. And I think they would honestly give AVT a shot at right tackle. Look, if he could play left tackle really well, and he was already playing right guard, why not put him at right tackle? He could figure it out. He's too talented not to. I at least feel like he'll give them a chance over there more so than Connor McDermott. Ultimately, Matt, if Dwayne Brown doesn't play, I think we see AVT at left tackle once again, and maybe Mike Remmers at right tackle, McDermott at right tackle. You got to really hope that they can run the ball and get the ball out quick. I think in a perfect world, AVT is probably the right tackle because that means Dwayne Brown is playing left tackle. But we'll see. They're being very coy about it there, and they should. They shouldn't say anything because you want to catch the Dolphins off guard. You don't want to tip your hand there. But I guess the hope really is Dwayne Brown's healthy enough to play in this game. There'll be a huge boost to this offensive line.
Yeah, it absolutely would. And last week was kind of the same thing. We didn't know until that day that AVT was going to play left tackle. How surprised were you about that?
I was really surprised. I mean, we floated it out there as like Jet content creators. As like, hey, like, would they do this? He did it in college, but it didn't feel like a Jet move. Like old coaching staffs for the Jets, like don't do that. It's like, oh well, we don't want to take the chance and make another position weaker on the O line. And it's like, you know what? Give credit to Robert Saleh and company. They're like, you know what? This guy's one of our best players. We believe in him. And you find out that they have actually been working him at left tackle, kind of off to the side at practice the last couple of weeks in case this scenario would play itself out in an emergency situation. So I was very surprised to see it. I'm glad they did it though, and AVT proved his value. Man, he's one of the best young offensive linemen in the NFL, and anyone ridiculing that trade, like the Seth Walders of the world, you look like an idiot even more so by the day.
Yeah, he's so valuable. And as you said, if he moves over and plays right tackle, which I think is definitely in the possibility if Dwayne Brown comes back, that'd be 4 positions in like what, 21, 22 games in his NFL career. That's unbelievable.
Crazy. I bet he could play center too if they really needed him to. Like he's that special of a talent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, speaking of special talents, your fingers crossed that Zach Wilson continues to look like that special talent. First, what do you think of his performance in his first game back, and what does he have to do this week to build on that?
Certainly, it was an up and down type of Zach game, but the biggest thing is it ended up in a major way where he executed in the fourth quarter. And that's really what you need your franchise quarterback to do. If Zach's going to be the guy, I don't really care what he does the first 3 quarters. Most NFL games are close. It's what you do in the fourth quarter that could put you over the top. And he was amazing down the stretch. And let's give him a break for some of the stuff in the first half and third quarter. He's coming off a major injury, man. There was always going to be rust with a makeshift offensive line. His completion percentage was only 50%, but how many of those plays were throwaways or there were a couple drops thrown in there? Like the fact that he only got sacked once is honestly like a minor miracle, just as a testament to Zach's athletic ability. People joked on the internet, Joe Flacco would have been stretchered off had he started that game this past Sunday. So I thought Zach played well. I think there's a lot he could still improve upon. I think he would even acknowledge that, and he did earlier this week. But the way he finished has to make you feel so encouraged that, hey, we have something here. We just got to keep harnessing that potential. And the big thing for Zach is going to be, and you know this, Matt, consistency. It's like you can't have one great game and then be bad on Sunday now against Miami. It's like you got to stack good weeks together, and that's what the best ones in the NFL do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people get too into just looking at the box score. And if people didn't watch the full game, they're going to go, oh, he completed 50% of his passes and threw 2 picks. I mean, it's the same Zach Wilson from last year, which I don't think is fair. I think he's kind of getting discredited for, 2 really good drives in the fourth quarter. The Jets were up, ended up being down in the game by 10 points, and he leads not 1, but 2 touchdown drives. That has to make you feel good about your young quarterback, even if, like, as we said, the stat numbers don't necessarily jump off the page there.
Totally agree. And really, look at it from like this perspective as well. Like it's his first game back, as I mentioned, and he's going out there and he's just competing, man. And what made those last 2 drives, I think, so impressive. Think about some of the things they had to overcome on those final 2 drives. There were several negative plays. There were several penalties. And Zach was able to overcome that. In the past, the Jets don't win that game. I mean, Mike Greenberg, I thought, had a great tweet about this. He's like, I've seen the Jets play this exact game hundreds of times. They never win it. Well, they won it because your number 2 pick went out there and gave you a chance to come from behind and win. And if you're not encouraged about that as a Jet fan, doing that in a hostile road environment, I don't want to hear the Steelers aren't any good. That wasn't the narrative coming in. The narrative coming in was Mike Tomlin had 10 days to prepare. Pittsburgh's up 10 in the fourth. How many people really thought the Jets were going to win that game? So I think it's ridiculous. People are like, well, the Steelers stink. That might end up being true, but that's not what we were saying going into this game. Give Zach a lot of credit. Now he's got to build on it, but how could you not be really encouraged by what you saw in the fourth quarter down the stretch?
100%. And obviously, with a young quarterback, and it's his first game at home this year. Do you think that they use the running backs a little bit more this week? They kind of did that in Pittsburgh. I think he had Brees Hall around 17 carries. Michael Carter had some touches of his own. Do you think they continue to try to run the ball against this Miami defense?
I certainly hope so, Matt. I think they have to get to a place where they're a run-first team and the run kind of sets up the pass. I'm not saying you turn into like the '09 Jets with Thomas Jones and Leon Washington and whatnot, but I do think you need to see this team, establish the run. And they, to their credit, they were really trying to do it against the Steelers. I really think that Brees Hall breakout game is coming, man. Like the fact that he's averaging what he's averaging and he really hasn't had that 60-yard run to really like boost up like the average per touch stats yet kind of speaks volumes about how talented he is. Michael Carter certainly has a role. I like the idea of, kind of doing what the Browns do. this drive's all Brees. The next drive's all Michael Carter. And you kind of wear down teams and let a guy get into rhythm. So I'd like to see them kind of get back to what we thought they were going to do, which is really ground and pound and set up that play action for Zach Wilson.
Oh, did I lose you? I think we're back now.
I'm still here. I never lost you.
Okay, thank God. Sorry about that. It might have just froze up on my end, but the point I agree with your point. I think they need to get both running backs involved here, and I like using Brees a little bit more now at this point because I think he's kind of proved that he is RB1 early on in the year. Like game one, Michael Carter I think looked like the better back, but just talent wise, I think Brees is starting to show why he's so special. And you're right, he's going to break one off just about any day now. It feels like it's coming soon.
No doubt. And when he does, MetLife's going to be chanting Brees, and I look forward to that.
I am in on that. I want to talk to you about the defense a little bit because even without Tua Tagovailoa, this is going to be still a very solid Miami Dolphins offense. Jalen Waddle, unbelievably fast. They bring in Tyreek Hill. How do you think Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed match up here?
It's going to be a real test for them. I'm looking at the injury report, and both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are on it. So maybe they're not at 100%. And that's interesting because it's not like, they're not going to be well rested for this game. They got 10 days to prepare for the Jets. It's a big challenge, man. I think the pass rush has to continue to get better. And we saw some real signs of it against Pittsburgh, which was encouraging. But the pass rush has got to help out the secondary. I feel really good about Sauce and DJ Reed, but they can't be perfect. Like the Dolphins offense is so explosive. They're going to make plays. It's going to be on those guys to really limit the big explosive plays down the field. And, the pass rush is going to have to get some pressure in Teddy Bridgewater's face to really contain this Dolphins offense. I expect the game that's probably going to be, high. If you said to me, is this game going over the total or not? I probably would bet the over because I think these two teams are both going to put up points.
There we go. And we'll get into that in a little bit here. And as this one is brought to you by BUSR, I think the pass rush is going to be extremely key in this game because obviously with those dynamic wide receivers, most think, okay, well, you look at DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, they've been great. Isn't that the storyline? And while I agree to an extent, I think the biggest way that you're going to be able to prevent big plays from happening is get after the quarterback. And it has to be with the front four because I think if you bring too much pressure through blitzes, you're going to get burned because they're just too fast and too shifty. And, they'll hit somebody on a slant and a turn upfield for 80-yard touchdown. So I really hope that the Jets defensive line looks like they did in Pittsburgh because I thought Quinnen looked really good. And Jermaine Johnson too. Can they get that guy on the field a little bit more? That'd be nice.
Completely agree. I mean, he's been so good and he's not playing that much. Like you got, and it's funny. PFF has him as the number one graded defensive end. Michael Clemens is number two. And it's like, you feel like these guys are barely on the field. Give them an opportunity. Oberg kind of implied that maybe he would. He was speaking glowingly about Jermaine at his availability the other day. I hope that's the case. We want to see these guys out there making plays. We know they're certainly capable of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love that. And I know how you feel about the defensive line rotation. I think everyone kind of feels that way. So we don't necessarily have to get into that. But how about, I guess, you know what? Let's pull up the numbers here over at BUSR and the spread. We'll take a look at what we're doing over here. The Miami Dolphins are favored by 3.5 points. Just looking at the point spread in this game, are you feeling like the Jets can cover this number?
I actually like the Jets to win this game outright. So I would take them on the money line at plus 157. Plus 3.5. I think if it was 3, people would be flocking to the Dolphins here. 3.5. I feel like if you're someone who thinks, you don't want to bet the money line, you rather take the points. This game to me is a field goal either way. Like I'm expecting this game to be very close. Could come down to the last 4 minutes in the fourth quarter. So, if you're bold, you could take them on the money line. If you think it's going to be a close game like I do, you might feel more comfortable getting that hook at 3.5 at BUSR.
Yep, absolutely. That's where I am. I'm definitely taking the Jets with the hook, but I think this is a game that they could absolutely win. I know that sounds crazy because they haven't won a divisional game since the last week in 2019, and that was against Matt Barkley's Bills. 0-12 in their last 12 divisional games. Jake, that has to change, right?
I mean, look, the thing we said coming into the year is, you got to go out there and get a win in September. They did that. They got to go out there and they got to win some games on the road. They now have 2 of them. And really, most importantly, you got to not be a joke in the AFC East. You can't be a doormat. I mean, you said it best. They haven't won a divisional game since they beat Matt Barkley in a game that meant nothing in 2019 to end the season to finish 7-9. That was the worst 7-9 Jets team we've ever seen. Like, this team's got to go out there at home. They're 0-2 at home this year, facing a backup quarterback with a laundry list of injuries. They're getting the Dolphins at the right time. Win this game. No one's saying you got to sweep the AFC East this year, but you can't be a doormat once again. And Robert Saleh has never won 2 straight games as the Jet head coach. That's another thing you got to check off. Like, don't come out flat and be down 10-0 early in the second quarter, like we've seen the Jets do after they've had a couple wins over the last few years. Like, they got to go out there and they got to take advantage of the opportunity at home, divisional opponent. If not now, Matt, then when is this team ever going to win a game against a divisional opponent?
I couldn't have said it any better myself. And you mentioned the point total earlier. If the number is at 46, do we like the over there?
I kind of do like the over. I'm seeing something like 27, 24, 28, 24. I do think this is going to be a higher scoring game. I do think it will be a little different, though. I think Green Bean had the same thought on one of his shows. The Jets are going to be in position with the defense trying to hold on this time, not the offense driving for the win. It's going to be a reverse of the 2 wins over Cleveland and last week against Pittsburgh. It's going to be on the defense to make a big stop, and I'm hoping Sauce Gardner locks up Tyreek Hill with the game on the line so we could get that Jet fan porn that we all want to watch.
That would be tremendous. And I want to go through some props. We're not going to go through every one, but there's a few that stand out to me. I want to look at passing yards. Obviously, in Zach's debut, he went for over 250. With this line at 219.5, that feels low, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I would play the over on this for Zach Wilson. He's going to have to throw. We talked about this game being high scoring. That to me is like, the Vegas odds, BUSR not necessarily adjusting to like Zach Wilson taking the year 2 leap. Like, that's projected on what he did as a rookie, and they're not factoring in what he's now going to do in his second year. So I'd play the over on passing yards for Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I'm definitely there too. I think he goes, well over 240, probably somewhere in that range. So you're getting pretty good value there. Maybe look for an alternate line. How about with Teddy Bridgewater? Do you think he's going to come out really throwing the ball around? He doesn't seem like someone who's going to go over 250. I feel like this number's a little on the high side for me.
Exactly. I feel like these numbers should be reversed. I don't know if I love this one, but if I had to make a play, I'd go under.
Yeah, I would too. I'd probably avoid that one though, but the 246 feels a little bit on the higher side. I wanted to look at anytime touchdown scorers as well, because this is always an interesting market, and then we'll go head to head. Is there anyone here that jumps out to you value wise that you think is a good bet to get into the end zone this week?
I'm looking at Elijah Moore there, and I believe up on the screen he's plus 250. This guy's gonna score a touchdown eventually, right? Like, he's too good not to. I think they're gonna really feature Elijah Moore in this one. If you recall, he had his best game as an NFL player last year against the Miami Dolphins. Elijah Moore plus plus 250 there to score a touchdown anytime. That's good stuff. I like that bet a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Elijah Moore's breakout was going to come last week. I think maybe we're off by a week here. He locked on to Corey Davis a little bit, who he's at plus 270. I don't know if he gets in the end zone back-to-back weeks, but if you're interested in that play, I like Elijah Moore. Even Garrett Wilson at 270 feels like pretty good value. It's been a little bit since he's been in the end zone, and I think it's about time that Wilson finds the Wilson connection, don't you?
Yeah, no doubt. And you know what's great about this? These are such good odds. You could sprinkle $10 on it, and you'll make your money back and then some if you hit on it. So it's one of those like low risk, potentially like high reward type of bets. Garrett Wilson, I think, will be huge in this game, beating man coverage. He's so good getting open one-on-one, and that's what he's going to have to do against a cover zero defense that Miami runs. So I like Garrett Wilson a lot. And you said it's plus 270 I'm looking at there. Honestly, I might like that more than Elijah Moore at plus 250. I probably would take Garrett Wilson as my preference.
Yeah, there you go. And the last thing that I want to get into here is some head-to-head matchups. These are kind of fun. You go through and it's like more receptions between Tyreek Hill or Corey Davis. Tyreek Hill is minus 667 in that one. So I don't know if I'd lay my money on that one. But if you want to go Elijah Moore getting more receptions than Tyreek Hill plus 265, is that enough juice to get you interested?
It is a lot of juice. I just don't know we have a theory that these Jets receivers are going to get a lot of targets, but game to game, it's been very tough to predict which one's going to get the most target shares. Tyreek Hill just seems to get it all the time because he's Tyreek Hill, but that is a lot of juice. I will say, if I could get Garrett Wilson against Tyreek Hill, that'd be the matchup I probably would like the best. I feel like that might give me the best chance to actually win that. I think it's plus 225, so not terrible if you want to sprinkle on that.
Yeah, and you have Garrett Wilson versus Tyreek Hill receiving yards. Garrett Wilson's at plus 181. on that one. There's another one that jumps out to me, and then we can get into anything else that stands out to you. Is we talked about Wilson versus Teddy Bridgewater just a little bit, but for passing yards, Wilson's plus money to have more passing yards than Teddy Bridgewater at plus 129. That feels like really good value to me.
Great value there. I think as we said, their numbers probably should be reversed for their yard total, passing yards total. So I like that. Honestly, I like Zach Wilson's props a lot this week. Like honestly, I think Vegas is yet to adjust the second year leap that I think is coming. So I would play a lot of over totals on Zach Wilson stats.
Yeah, that's where I am too. Anything else that you want to get into on here sticking out to you, or
Do they have so we went through anytime touchdowns or whatnot. Do they have like anytime interceptions over at BUSR? Can we bet on Sauce Gardner picking one off from Teddy Two Gloves here?
I would love that player performance doubles. I don't know. We might have to. Oh, interceptions. Here we go. Oh no, it's just for Teddy Bridgewater to throw.
All right, so play the over on Bridgewater pick because he's throwing one to Sauce. There we go.
Yeah, minus 103. That's just about even money. That's pretty good. I'll take that.
That's very good odds, right? I mean, the Jets had what, 4 interceptions last week? Yeah. So give it a shot.
Absolutely. So thank you to BUSR once again for sponsoring. Oops, I got to bring Jake back here too. For sponsoring today's video. BUSR.com/Matt is where you can go to sign up, or BUSR.com/Asman. They are giving a 100% first deposit bonus and 25 casino chips. Jake, any final thoughts on this game coming up this week?
Matt, I'm going to the game. I have a flight booked for tomorrow. I'm making my 2022 MetLife debut. I'll be hanging out with the Jet Lounge crew. I'll be hanging out in Lot L5 where they do the flaming of the jersey before every game. It's a ton of fun. So looking forward to interacting with a bunch of Jet fans, and hopefully the Jets do this thing called win a game at home for the first time this year.
That would be nice. I sign me up for that. That's going to do it for us on this stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure to subscribe to Jake Asman and myself. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary. We'll talk to you next time.